discussed on this podcast are determined by the Justice Coordinating Commission of the Sisters of Providence of St. Mary of the Woods, Indiana. Guest opinions do not necessarily reflect those of the Sisters of Providence. To learn more, go to www.spsmw.org.
Welcome to JUSTUs, where we talk about creating an equitable human community and influencing change. Through shared stories, conversation, and inspiration, you will learn how to make a difference in your community. I'm your host, Sister Emily Tukolsky. In today's episode, I would like to introduce our guests, Eileen Walthall and Alan Berkovitz, who are joining us in this shared space to discuss the influence of race in our society through the lens of white guilt and growth. Motivated by our guests' experience and insights, let's take action for the common good. If not now, tell me when. Eileen, Alan, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It's our privilege. Eileen, why don't you get started and just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came into the work of addressing racism?
So I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I was born and raised here. Middle-class family, 8 kids in our family. I went to private Catholic education all the way through to Xavier University. So, yeah.
Hey, that's where I went.
Oh, Muskies.
Yeah.
So, and I do have to say I have the privilege of having a lot of opportunities as a child. I grew up traveling in a lot of different sports and activities, and I was introduced to a lot of integration in my life. My parents did a really good job. We were raised Catholic, but my parents, my dad, I think back as mostly the one that opened a lot of our eyes into the indifferences that go on in the world, the conversations at the dinner table. My father, or my godfather, baptized godfather, was a Black man. So it wasn't like I haven't been integrated my whole life. So it's not something I've just been awoken to at age 53. But not knowing what they were doing and formulating, but I've always had an interest in this area. Later on in life, I didn't get married till I was 37. My husband and I were married right here in Indianapolis. And went through a lot of different conversations, and we tackled the early infertility in our marriage. And so we went down the avenue of adoption. With that being said, we are happy parents of 2 children, a boy and a girl. My son is 12 and my daughter is 9. They are birth brother and sister. And so with that being said, I just, grew up with the conversation, but now have so many more tools and reasons to embrace the biased or unjust world that we live in today. And so there I am.
Great. And that's because of your children, right?
Well, yeah, I was not going to jump into that right away, but yes,
Okay.
My 2 kids are Black Americans, and we received both of our kids at birth. And like I said, they're birth brother and sister. So, and my husband and I didn't plan on this. We didn't go about it in any way. It was kind of one of these things that graced us. And so we were faced with a lot about 14 years ago of the unknown and the awareness, I guess, more than anything. And it was fast forwarded, and it happens every day for us. So here I am, and I'm in a community that has embraced me and helped us take it slowly and learn a lot. So I'm very happy to be part of this community that I am in.
Great. Awesome. And Alan, how about you?
Thank you. It's fun to hear Eileen, because we've known each other for some time, but I always learn something a little bit different or a little bit newer about you. Our stories are not that dissimilar, but there are certainly some dissimilarities along the way. So my story, my name is Alan Berkovitz. I have been married to Janine for almost 38 years. We have 3 grown children, two son-in-laws and one grandbaby. Like Eileen, I was born and raised here in Indianapolis, middle-class family. Went through our local township public schools, then on to Indiana University, and then on to the IU School of Medicine. So professionally, I'm a physician. I've been a family physician for almost 35 years. And through work, through some interesting journeys at work, and also through personal experience, I became very interested in interfaith issues. And that led me to serve on a race and culture committee at our church, Catholic Church, and become more involved in racial discussions in addition to the interfaith issue discussions.
Excellent. Well, thank you again both for being here today. Today, we really want to talk about white people and the ways that white people tend to exist in conversations around racism and how we kind of move into new spaces. So can we start by defining a few terms? Eileen, would you kick us off? Can you tell us what white privilege is?
I think it's exactly what it says. It's the privileges white people are given and often not know that we are given to give us the opportunities that many don't have with not being white. And that could be education, that could be healthcare, that could be housing, that could be economics, social economics. I go back to the most simplest thing is one of my biggest white privileges is my white skin. I can go and introduce myself, whether I'm poor or rich, but I'm still white. And I can go into that situation and be whoever I want it to be. And no one can really judge me right away by just the way I show up. And so I just say privileges are just the way that I show up every day that I don't even know are around me.
Great. Alan, anything you want to add?
No, I agree fully. It's almost self-defining. I would just add that, in my mind, it's a benefit that society has granted us because of how we look as being white, that people who are non-white do not have those same benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I also think of it as the obstacles we don't face. It's even harder to see that side of it, right? Like the obstacles that we don't face because we are white that other folks might face because they don't have that same privilege.
I think that's an excellent point. I think so much of this is, when I look back at my life, the oblivion that I had to white privilege, and I now feel privileged that I have been brought into spaces such as this and spaces such as our Race and Culture Committee, so we can sit down as groups and start talking about what this means, how it's influenced us, how we've learned from it, and even most importantly, how we move forward and try to overcome some of this.
So, Alan, can you kick us off on this next question? What's the definition of white guilt?
The white guilt, in my mind, is really interesting because I think of it in two ways. I think of it first as almost a collective way that we, and I would define we as white people, are collectively responsible for the injustice that has been perpetrated through the years. And that's because of our whiteness and how people who are not white have been treated by society. So we all are to some degree responsible and guilty of that. The one that I personally feel more connected to is more of that guilt or shame that's brought on once we really start to realize that this has been a problem and we have been part of it. And what we do with that guilt or shame really is is tantamount to what I just referred to as where do we go from here? Because it can lead us, I think, in two directions. It could lead us and give us the energy to try to change our attitudes and make things better, or it can lead us in a way that makes us disengage and really become defensive about it. And I hope that in all cases, I choose the former instead of the latter.
Eileen, anything to add?
Yeah, I think a way that I talk to my kids about it a little bit between the shame and the guilt differentiation is shame is kind of, I am bad. It's I'm bad. But the guilt is I feel bad about what I did, and now let's learn from it. And not so much that you're not going to repeat it, but let's grow from it and move forward and get out of that shameful spot. Because if we just stick there, then we might be defensive. We might push away. We might seclude ourselves, which I think is a lot about like the white supremacy, not wanting to take the power away from us and give it to others, and undressing that. So to me, it's real simple. The shame is that I am bad. The guilt is I feel bad, but I can be better. And I can do better by learning and having some difficult conversations and having some safe conversations that lead me to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, that the connection between responsibility and privilege and the connection between then what do we do with it?
What do we do with it?
What do we do with it? And it's not, I think that the difference I hear in your difference between guilt and shame is that it's not the whiteness that's bad. It's not the identity that's bad. It's the structures that society has built around that whiteness. And those aren't things that we've necessarily contributed to, but we can use our privilege to undo.
Yes.
So then the last definition, white fragility. How would you define that? Eileen, you want to kick us off?
Boy, this is a tough one for me, the white fragility, because I think it's a lot deeper than just a quick response, but it's a lot like the guilt. It's to me, it's the responsibility of being okay with what was, I guess, the fragility, the fragileness of it all, but doing things every day, I guess. I really have a hard time with this one, the fragility, because to me it's my ownership. It's my walk. It's my road that I'm going to take to move through some of the biases that or like you say, the privileges I've grown up with. And so taking ownership of it and owning this and being okay.
Yeah, that's hard.
It is hard.
Takes a strength. That takes a strength and maybe, I don't know. Alan, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. I think from my standpoint, I don't know if I struggle as much defining it. I certainly struggle in trying to come up with solutions and where I go personally and where we go, as groups to try to overcome white fragility. I think of it as a discomfort maybe that we feel as white people when we're confronted with the knowledge or confronted with the information that racial injustice has occurred through the years. I think it's that feeling and maybe even a defensiveness that we may feel as well.
Yeah, what you said earlier when we were talking about white guilt really kind of, it was a new way of hearing it for me, but I think it really sums it up. Like, what do we choose to do with it is the question. And the white fragility to me says we choose to shove it down, don't engage, that it takes a strength to do the work of engaging. I don't know if that resonates with you at all, but that's kind of what's coming to me. I think your previous definition helped me to kind of flesh that out a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why we get together and talk, because we end up the three of us just in this short time will help us move forward even more.
Excellent. So there is there's a lot of discussion in our society about these topics. And we tend to focus a lot on whiteness and blackness and how those manifest in our social system. Can you help us expand beyond that framework? What other groups does that miss? Or how do we start thinking about it differently?
Meaning white fragility or
Or just,
or any of.
yeah, when we think about whiteness, how do we think about that? Like, so often it's whiteness and blackness, but whiteness can also be in contrast to other groups. Do you have anything to offer in that space of thinking beyond the binary, the dichotomy? And if not, that's okay. We can skip ahead.
Well, I think I know what you're asking, and I think Eileen mentioned earlier, and she profoundly made this statement, is that it's so visible, is where we may be prejudicial or think differently of people because of who they are or what they are, isn't always apparent to us by looking at them. But our skin color is. And I think that's one thing that sets this so apart from others, from other groups. Now, I'm not I'm not schooled on this. I'm not scholarly on this, but I have heard and read some comparisons to white guilt, to what the Germans went through after the Holocaust with the guilt of how their people treated the Jewish people and others who were murdered in this horrendous part of our history. But I think when you start to compare things, it gets dangerous, and it's not only dangerous, but it's hard. It's just hard to make comparisons. But I do think that the visibility of our skin color makes this so different from so many other things. I don't know, Eileen, you think any differently?
No, I do. I think our country it began on enslavement. You know what I mean? Like the enslavement and the relationships between blacks and whites. So often we go right back to that when we talk about guilt and shame. But I think anybody in the United States that is marginalized, no matter if it's religion, race, like their ethnicity. I think of Native Americans. I think of anybody that the white. And it's not white skin, it's our institutionalism. It's what we've done in this country to marginalize anyone. You can kind of cross boundaries there. And I think in our race and culture committee that we are all part of, we focus so much on black-white issues because it is the predominant situation in our setting. And if we're not strong there and fully understand how we can be so vulnerable to all these topics and learn from them, then we can't go to the next topic or we're going to be weak. And so I think Alan and I both come from a very, when we talk about these things, it's very much more of a black-white. But I often try to incorporate what it means to be an immigrant in this country, what it means to be a Native American in this country, what it means to be of any kind of ethnicity that is culturally different than what the United States embraces. And when I say embrace, our institutionalized setting, I mean, it's just so hard to get ahead in this country unless you have that as your forefront. And that's where that whole white supremacy, I mean, they're scared. People are scared to let go and to own that it's okay to love one another. It's okay to love someone and allow everyone to be equal. That doesn't mean you're going to lose anything. But I don't know, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent there, but I think anyone marginalized, I often try to open my mind up. But like Alan said, the minute you have race, and obviously skin color is so associated with race, so we can go right into the Hispanic population. It's so strong in this country. I mean, we marginalize Hispanics every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and the idea that whiteness is the ideal is what's leading to all of these challenges in the immigration system, all of this push to absolutely decimate the asylum system in this country. These things have very real consequences in all sorts of ways. We talk a little bit about like the institution. How would you define the institutional piece of this? What are some of the things that first come to mind? And I'm sure you can't it's a big topic. So what are just some of the first things that come to your mind when we talk about institutionalism?
I'm going to go right to the right to vote. We've taken that away from so many people on how and what it takes to be able to vote in this country as an adult. Let's just go there. That's one thing. Education. I mean, where can we start there? And it's not even what we're so much taught currently, but education as a whole, historically. There are so many people that are deprived of a good education in this country. From beginning of time, we have segregated, however we want to say it. I mean, my kids, 2 Black kids, go to a predominantly white school. We all love each other at our school, but we're predominantly white. And why is that okay that a school right down the street is failing? Why is that okay? I think Alan could probably open our minds to healthcare. What did I hear last night? We had a race and culture meeting. Poverty. If we just, I think the sum was $70 billion in this country to poverty, we could lift almost everyone out of it. That's not a lot of money. When we talk about the trillions of dollars we spend every year. So it's like poverty alone so much affects certain marginalized individuals to where they can't get out. So that's the institutionalism. Loans, housing, healthcare. I mean, where do we begin? It keeps the power down. We keep our power segregated.
So Eileen talked a little bit about the laws. Alan, is there anything else from a medical perspective that you'd like to add, either from a law perspective or from an implicit bias perspective?
Well, I think Eileen, you hit all the major topics when you talk about institutionalized racism and how that's continued. I mean, I think of healthcare, I think of education, I think of voting, I think of housing, I think of generational wealth. All those things from a healthcare standpoint. I think that's that's a whole nother podcast almost. But I think the simplistic way to say it is it's a haves often receive the best, and the have-nots don't have the same access. And that goes, there's a lot of different barriers. There's a lot that goes into that, but poverty is probably the main driver of that, as Eileen mentioned.
Poverty. That's a big one. And the poverty, especially the racial divide in the poverty world, was created by policies that go back to the American chattel slavery, but didn't stop there and are still going on today. And I think naming that is really important.
And if you look at infant mortality, if you look at maternal mortality, all those are not good in our country, or certainly in our state as well, Indiana. These are things that we can work for and advocate for and do better than what we are doing now. We should be able to do that.
So in my mind, this brings us back to where we started the conversation, the relationship between white privilege and white guilt, and what do we do with that? What are your thoughts on that? I
would share what Eileen and I talked about last time we met as maybe a springboard to the answer to that is we've both been given different gifts that have really led us to this point where we're at now, especially talking on this podcast. My gift was that I happened to fall in love with someone who was a different religion than I was. My wife is a practicing Catholic, and I'm a practicing Jew. And we took that and ran with it. We taught one another. We learned from one another. We took what could have been a very uncomfortable situation And through, time and effort and communication and love and sharing, we made it something, amazing and positive. Is we both were given a gift that we can step into another person's life, something that was foreign to us. So now when we look at things that are foreign to us, like talking about racial issues, I mean, I grew up, like Eileen mentioned as well, in a white middle-class family. So racial problems were foreign to us, and things that are foreign are oftentimes uncomfortable. So what can we do to change that? Well, it goes back to what did my wife and what did I do when we were first starting? Well, we talked, we taught, we learned, we shared, and we took the time. And I think that's how we move forward as communities, as groups. That's what we need to do. We need to learn from each other. We need to embrace differences and move forward, because we have to move forward. So Eileen, you want to share your gift and how that's affected you too?
How I faced this. So here I am. I am a mother for the last 12 years. And like I said, no one plans the kids you have. My two wonderful children, along with my husband, we open arm accepted them into our families, into our little family. And as I quickly got on board to what I didn't know, and like these definitions we talked about, started reading, started listening, started worrying what it meant to be a mother and or a father of two Black kids. What were we going to do? And let me tell you, this is Obama was voted into presidency a year before my son was born. So to me, it was just a wide opening, like, look at the possibilities I hear from my beautiful Black son. But over the last 12 years, we have, as a country, been faced with a lot. It's messy, but I'm grateful. So in that time, there was a lot of guilt for me that as I learn, as I read, as I join different groups out there that allowed me a lot of diversity, a lot of conversation, and a lot of ignorance. I didn't know. I don't know what I'm going to do wrong or what I'm going to do. But I dealt with a lot of guilt. I know, and I say this, and don't feel sorry for me, right? I know that I'm a mother of these two kids, not because, I'm a wonderful person or this or that, but it's because of my privileges. I was given everything to get to where I was able to open my arms to these two kids I have today. But I know deep down inside, had I been my birth mother, color of her skin, the inability, the no support to get a full education, the inability to have a loving family to help her, a marriage to support her, or a college education to finish it all off and get a very good job that literally financially supported my adoption. So all these privileges, it's not because I'm smarter, it's not because I'm better, it's not because I have to say there's no drama with my birth mother, and we don't know our birth mother very well, but the short period of time I was with her, I know she did not choose to have to give away her children. And so I go back to this guilt constantly, often saying, boy, it's because of our systems that were completely shedded from her ability to get ahead, to be able to keep her family together. And so I could sit on that and dwell on it and feel sorry and try to be a savior. But really all I can do is to learn and to hope and pray that we can change this as a whole. What do I mean by change? I mean, I had tough conversations. I think Alan was in a couple of them. We've been in retreats together where the things I've learned that I wasn't even aware of. The privileges I've been given, I wasn't even awoken to until I am loved, something so much that I was willing to go in time after time and figure out that what I don't know, what I want to know, and it was a little bit more urgent because I have to. I'm a mother of 2 Black kids where we're all one big loving family inside this house. But the minute we walk out this door, they're Black and I'm white. And that's the reality. And you see and hear and feel things every day, but every day it's negative, or every time there's shame or guilt, there's something good that comes out of our day. And like this workshop, I mean, I wouldn't have taken the time to do this had it not been so important for me to say, you know what, Eileen, get uncomfortable, be vulnerable. I don't know anything else than anybody else, but I do know that I have to be an ally and I have to do the dirty work, and might not be able to fix it in my lifetime, but I'm going to definitely make sure my kids and my community is better today. I mean, tomorrow as it is today. So that's all I can do.
Yeah, beautiful. And thank you for the vulnerability of sharing. Just, I mean, even the ability that you have to have your children being a result of these systems. That takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to be able to name those so publicly. You've both talked about this race and culture committee and this workshop. Can you tell us a little bit more about those and about how you all got to know each other?
Eileen, you want to take that?
Oh, Alan. So we counted it up the other day. It's 2017 is when the heart of this culture group came together. And we had a priest at our church that very much embraced the uncomfortable. And he went out and found these individuals. And I think there was about 14 to 15 of us, all different backgrounds. Alan, one, myself, we had elders, we had people that have been in the parish for many, many years that had watched the racial divides over time. I think you know some of the individuals. I mean, it was an unbelievable group, old, young, some within the parish, but in the school, some within the parish, no kids, some in the parish, kids educated in different settings. Many of these individuals are professionally in the, I would say, what would you say, Alan, in the industry of, they work in this industry. And so we had really good sound bites being able to help us have good structure and respect. And we all took responsibility of what we were going to do. And as that all unfolded from 2017 till today, our group started from the grassroots and we're still going. I mean, we had a meeting last night, and I'll let Alan talk about some of the things we did, but it was literally monthly meetings where you learned something every meeting. And it could be as basic as what it meant. Let's talk about the word guilt or privilege, or let's talk about these words, or it could be something complicated on how can we solve an issue in our parish that we are confronting every day. Or I'll let Alan go, but it was pure just the opportunity came my way and I embraced it.
Yeah, my involvement was such. You've kind of prompted my memory of how I got started with the Race and Culture Committee. Is this priest that Eileen was referring to who started this? I approached him. And I was interested in something from an interfaith standpoint that I might be able to involve myself with. And he says, we have this Race and Culture Committee. So that's how I was getting started with that. And I think one of the most profound things I remember early on I'm not sure if it was at a seminar or if it just was at one of our meetings, but we had several African-American families in the parish, not a lot, but several. And I think we leaned on them so much at the very beginning. As I remember talking to the mom of a family that I got to know really well. And I just asked her how she was doing, because we were really involved with this, and I think we were going quickly. We had a really good momentum going. And she just looked at me and she said, I'm tired. She said, I'm tired of being the one that everyone comes to and asks. And that really hit me as, one, that makes a lot of sense because we are expecting to get all of our answers from people of color. We want, help us so we can overcome this problem we have in this country. Well, it's our problem collectively. We want everyone involved with that, but it's not just on the shoulders of the African American community to lead us to better times. We need to all do this work together. And that was a profound moment for me, a very moving moment for me, but also a very educational moment to realize my ignorance and how much I needed to continue to educate myself and learn.
Emily, some of the things that also that we've done, which I think Alan and I both have enjoyed, is we were all given little jobs on this committee, and it was to take things one step further. And some of them were diversity dinners, planning diversity dinners, and that was a strong input from some of our members that said you have to break bread with each other. You can't come and then go home to your community or your home and say that you're doing your job. You have to talk, and food and celebration of a table brings discussion that you can't plan. And I think that was one of the things that we worked on. And others of us took little jobs in the community. We reached out to our community center and said, hey, how can we be more involved? We have a lot of intentions, but we want to put some action. There were some political things that came up over the years where we collectively as a group tried to stand behind, or the interfaith, understanding what interfaith is and why are we scared not to be Catholics and also accept the interfaith aspects of things. And if we're going to put words up, a mission statement, are we living by that mission statement? And that is hard as whites, because especially whites that want to move, the needle a little bit, we're really good at marketing and we're really good at opening the doors. But what have we done once we've, really embraced what we're saying and doing? And so it was a lot of do. And it was nice because it's put us all book clubs. We've had book clubs, book discussions. We discussed TED Talks. It just has been a plentiful thing of lots of things, right? That we've tried to trial out. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, and some of them we continue.
Yeah, it's always an experimentation with figuring out what's the best way to move forward. But what I hear in this is it's really all about relationship at the heart. It's about relationship, and it's about taking responsibility as white folks, using our privilege to undo the systems that have privileged us at the expense of others so that everyone gets a fair shake. Is that a fair assessment of how you see things?
Yeah, and I think it's I think it even continues is that we need to, I mentioned momentum. We need to continue on. I think that Eileen made a really great point. Is it's not a matter of doing something once, and a great case in point as I look back what I was talking about earlier with my uncomfortableness initially with the Catholic Church, because it was something so foreign to me. And it's not just you can visit a Catholic church once and say, I've been there, I've done that, I'm done with that work. We have to walk in those shoes consistently and often if we're going to make any progress in really understanding the other. And we can define that other, we talked about it earlier. We talked about when you were asking the question, we talked about who are the other, what other races or societies are we talking about? And it's really anything or anyone who's discriminated against because they're different. I mentioned, Jewish people at the Holocaust. Eileen, you mentioned, American Indians, Hispanic populations. There's so many examples, but we need to be inclusive and consistent and repetitive.
Yeah, changing a systems and a structure is not a one-time check that off the to-do list sort of thing. So for our listeners today, what types of actions can we do to deepen our understanding of white privilege and bridge the gap within our own communities?
Well, I have a lot of at least thoughts and opinions, and I could at least share, and I've already shared some of that, is what I've done. And what I've done is first try to continue to educate myself and understand the issues, because I would imagine there's a lot of people out there just like me who, admit it or not, we have really no idea of the white privilege we've enjoyed all these years, and how others who aren't our skin color have not enjoyed those same privileges, and to understand the consequences of that. So I think education and then involvement. Try to, again, it's not anything major that either of us are going to be able to do. It's going to be a lot of people doing a little thing to move this forward. So get involved in a race and culture committee. One of the problems that we did mention is a lot of times it's the proverbial preaching to the choir. The people who come to these things are the ones who really don't need to come to these things, but that's not really true. I think the more we involve ourselves, the more contagious hopefully it becomes, and the bigger it gets.
Eileen, anything to add?
Yeah, I think to truthfully not try to be a savior as a white American. It's not our job to save, but the more we understand, the more we're willing to talk, whether it's with our peers, people that look like us, people that don't look like us. And I truly fail a lot. And sometimes it would bother me. Sometimes it would bother me and I'd be afraid to go back, but I don't have a choice. And I think that's how we need to confront things, we don't have a choice as a human being to not love and be afraid to say, I love you. I mean, we're on this call right now. Yes, of course, that love looks different, but I am here because I care and I love to know more. And I think that's just something to be really mindful and practice mindfulness. Like, you can't stop. It's my journey for the rest of my life. I got started a little late, but I think maybe my whole life I embraced differences because of my family, my dad. But here I am today, I'm a mom, and I have to continue to pick people up that look like me, and their minds are on 100 different things, and to practice intentional mindfulness, talk, listen. Don't give up. Don't do it one time. It might get boring after a while, and you might say, oh, I want a new topic. I want a new thing to learn about. Yeah, but you can't forget. So be a true ally.
The other thing, Eileen, I thought of as you were talking, although we haven't really gotten in that much into the politics of this, but the one thing that I would certainly hope we don't fail to mention is to use what you said earlier, that right and gift that we've all been given, and vote. My wife and I were listening to a podcast yesterday, and they were interviewing somebody who said, I can't vote for either side, the man, the individual. And so they're not going to vote. And to me, that's about the worst thing we can do. So, I don't care so much who people do end up voting for. I just think it's so important that we do get out, and that's another active way to advocate is we educate ourselves about our elected leaders or candidates, and we make decisions based on what our thoughts are and who we align to.
Excellent.
Very good, Alan. Like the whole voting. I know we probably are going to get chopped off here, but just the whole voting thing. Like, what a privilege! What a white privilege to say, I'm not going to vote for either. I don't like either. Think of the individuals that can't vote.
Yeah. And so in both of your stories, I heard this part of your transformation being about getting comfortable with getting uncomfortable. And sometimes that is in the listening, sometimes that is in the self-education, sometimes that is in the actually going out and doing the advocacy work. So I'm going to leave our listeners with that. Pull up a chair and get uncomfortable. Get out and vote. Use your privilege, for those of you who are white, to change these systems and make something more equitable. So thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Alan, for your time with us today. And thank you to our listeners for sharing this time and space with us. We hope that you are inspired and have learned from Alan and Eileen. Are you now ready to go make a difference within your community? If not now, tell me when. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and we'll share it with others. Thanks so much. Have a great day.